My son was on his knees in front of me, right there on the cold tile floor of the probate office, his hands shaking as he reached for mine. "Mom, please, please don't do this." Nathan's voice cracked in a way I had not heard since he was a little boy. The same trembling sound he made when he scraped his knee on the playground and ran straight into my arms, but that boy was gone. And the man kneeling in front of me now was the one who had shoved my suitcase out the door a month earlier, without a hint of hesitation. I stared down at him, the folder containing my brother Harold's will still warm in my hands. His eyes were wide and wet, but there was something in them, something frantic, something desperate that told me this wasn't about love. It was fear, pure fear. The notary, Judge Delgado, cleared his throat behind us as if he wasn't sure whether to speak or give us privacy. Attorney Karen Rhodes paused mid-sentence, her glasses halfway down her nose, watching Nathan as though she'd expected this all along. "Mom, I swear, I didn't mean any of it," Nathan whispered. "You have to believe me. I was stressed. I wasn't thinking straight. We can fix this. Fix this." Those were the same words he used when he was a teenager and crashed his bike into the neighbor's fence. Except now he was not a boy, and this was not a fence. This was the wreckage he created with his own bare hands. A month ago, he stood in my kitchen with that bright, greedy gleam in his eyes after getting a phone call about Harold's inheritance. I can still hear the way his voice changed sharper, louder, swollen with a pride that didn't belong to him. "Pack your things, Mom. I don't need you anymore. I'm rich now." He didn't shout it. He didn't hesitate. He said it like he was doing me a favor by letting me hear the truth. Then he dragged my suitcase down the steps of the house I had worked my whole life to maintain, the same house I raised him in after his father died. He pushed it onto the porch and said he didn't want the past weighing down his future. Now, here he was kneeling. I pulled my hands back slowly, not to hurt him, but because I didn't know how to hold someone who had thrown me away so easily. Nathan's face crumpled as his fingers brushed the air where my hands had been. "Please, Mom," he whispered again. "I need you." I could feel Ruby standing behind me near the doorway, her quiet presence steady as always. I could sense Bree somewhere outside in the hallway, refusing to come in now that the tide had turned. And I could feel Harold, my brother, who had always seen more than he let on somewhere in this room too. My breath shook as I finally stepped back from my son, watching him cling to the edge of my coat. And that is how everything began to unravel. Not for me, but for him. Because the truth is, this moment didn't start in the probate office. It started long before on the day he told me to pack my things and get out. And to understand how my son ended up on his knees, we have to go back to where the fall truly began. I didn't always live with this heaviness in my chest. Before everything unraveled, my days in South Shore were simple, quiet, predictable. My little brick duplex creaked in all the same familiar places, and I knew exactly how the afternoon sun would fall across my kitchen table. After Leon died, that house became my anchor, my reminder that even when life broke, something steady remained. Back then, Nathan still visited on Sundays. He'd sit at the table with a plate of my baked chicken, telling me about his ideas for a new business. He always had ideas. I listened to every one of them, even the impossible ones, because that was what a mother did when her child was reaching for something. "Mom, I swear this app is the future. People will pay for concierge grocery services within 5 years," he said once, waving his fork around. I smiled at him. "Then make sure you build it right the first time." "I will," he said, but his shoulders slumped a little. "Just need some startup money." I had already given him money 2 times that year alone. I didn't say no. I didn't say yes either. I learned how to change the subject without hurting him. But slowly, our conversations shifted. He stopped asking how I was, stopped noticing when I looked tired. stopped saying, "Love you, Mom." It happened over years, like a bridge drying out piece by piece before the wood snaps. Then Bree entered the picture. She was polite the first few times we met. Stiff but friendly enough. Over time, that smile got tighter. Her visits became shorter. She'd glance around my house like the furniture personally offended her. One afternoon, she whispered to Nathan in the living room, thinking I couldn't hear, "Your mom keeps everything from the 1980s. You sure you want investors to see where you grew up?" "It's not that bad," Nathan mumbled. "Image matters." Bree's voice sharpened. "If you want to move up, you gotta cut the old weight." I stood at the kitchen doorway with a dish towel in my hand, the air slipping right out of my lungs. I didn't say anything. Not then. I knew if I walked in, Bree would smile that sugary smile and pretend she didn't mean it. Days later, she came over while I was preparing a small dinner. The stove clicked as the burner turned on, filling the room with a soft heat. "Can you hand me that bowl?" I asked her. She didn't move. She tapped her phone instead. "Nathan and I were talking. Maybe you should start thinking about downsizing." She said it lightly, as if discussing the weather. "That house is old, Lorraine, and Nathan has enough on his plate without extra responsibilities." "Extra responsibilities," I repeated, my voice low. She lifted her eyes. "You know what I mean." Nathan walked in a moment later, cheerful and oblivious. "Mom, Bree's right. You deserve somewhere easier. Something smaller. I am not a burden," I said. Before I could swallow the words down, Nathan blinked. Confused. That's not what we're saying. But it was exactly what she was saying. And I could feel her satisfaction when I turned away to hide the sting. Our conversations changed after that. Nathan's tone had new edges. Bree's voice filled the gaps where mine used to be. They visited less, then only for holidays, then not at all unless they needed something. One night I called him after hearing about a burglary 2 streets over. "Nathan, are you safe? I just wanted to check on you." "Mom, I'm busy," he said. "You worry too much." "Because you're my son." He sighed loudly. The kind that told me my love was now an inconvenience. "Mom, I'll call you later." He didn't. I kept trying anyway. Mothers always do. I didn't know it then, but that distance, the aching, invisible space between us wasn't sudden. It had been growing long before the day he told me to pack my things. Long before the inheritance. Long before he stood in front of me on his knees. That day didn't create the break. It exposed it. And the call that finally pushed everything over the edge came soon after. I was rinsing the dishes when Nathan's phone rang in the living room. His tone shifted the moment he answered. Sharp inhale. Chair scraping. His footsteps pacing fast and uneven. "This is Nathan Carter speaking." "Wait, who?" A pause. Then his voice dropped to a whisper, like he didn't want me to hear. Yes, I'm his nephew. Is this about Uncle Harold?" My hands froze under the running water. Harold Whitcomb, my older brother, stubborn, private, generous when he thought no one was looking. We hadn't seen him much these last few years, but he always sent me birthday cards and called on every holiday. Nathan barely remembered him. "Yes, I understand," Nathan said quickly. "I'll be there. When do we start the inheritance, I mean?" "The probate process." I shut off the faucet. The word inheritance didn't even hesitate on his tongue. He hung up, and when he turned toward me, his face wasn't sad. It wasn't reflective. It wasn't anything a nephew should feel when hearing someone died. It was bright, wild, almost feverish. "Mom, Uncle Harold passed away," he said, but he didn't wait for a reaction. "The probate attorney, what's her name? Rhodes. Karen Rhodes. She said I need to come in. Apparently there's property, accounts, something like that." "Nathan," I said slowly, "Harold was your blood. My brother, he's gone." I know. Mom, I know, he said, brushing the words off. But this could change everything for us. He sat at the dining table, pulled out his phone, and immediately typed something. I watched the reflection in his screen. How long until inheritance payout? The words glowed back at me before he tapped the link. You're already searching that, I said quietly. He didn't look up. Mom, this could be a lot of money. Bree and I have plans. We might finally get ahead. Your uncle just passed away. And I'm grateful, he snapped. But what am I supposed to do? Sit and cry. He wouldn't want that. Before I could respond, the front door opened and Bree walked in, heels clicking across the floor. So she said, tossing her purse on the counter. What did the lawyer say? Nathan stood, gripping the back of the chair. It's real, Bree. He left something. Maybe a lot. Her eyes widened, not with grief, with calculation. Well, then we need to take this seriously, she said. You should get everything you're entitled to. And her gaze flicked toward me. We don't need distractions while we're moving up. Bree, I murmured. I'm not trying to distract anyone. You don't have to try, she answered. Some people just hold others back without realizing. Nathan didn't defend me. He didn't even look at me. Instead, he nodded slowly, like the idea settled comfortably in his mind. Yeah, he murmured. We need to think about the future. And don't feel guilty, Bree added, touching his arm. Everyone grows out of something. Or someone. The air between us crackled, sharp as broken glass. I stepped back, gripping the counter to steady myself. Nathan's excitement rose by the minute, overflowing into plans he wasn't ready to say aloud yet. I could feel resentment building under his words, quiet, simmering, dangerous. Later that night, my phone buzzed with a voicemail from Attorney Rhodes. Mrs. Carter, it's important you attend the probate meeting as well. You'll understand why when we speak. I replayed it twice. Something in her tone chilled me straight through. Harold had left something behind, and whatever it wasn't meant only for Nathan. Nathan waited until evening to do it. He hovered in the doorway of the kitchen while I scrubbed the last pan from dinner, his shoulders stiff, his jaw tight. I felt him there before he spoke. That strange, restless energy radiating off him like heat. Mom, he said, we need to talk. I dried my hands slowly. All right. What's on your mind? He didn't sit. He didn't blink. Attorney Rhodes called again. She confirmed the numbers. The inheritance is real. It's big. How big, I asked gently. Enough that everything changes for me. He stepped closer. For us. I mean, the correction came too late. Nathan, I said, I know you're excited, but your uncle just died. I said we need to talk. He snapped. I stiffened. His voice. It had weight I had never heard before. He reached behind him, grabbed the handle of a suitcase I hadn't even seen at first, and dragged it forward across the tile. My suitcase. The one I used when I visited Harold 20 years ago. He let it drop at my feet. You're moving out, he said. Tonight, my breath caught. Nathan, what are you talking about? I'm starting a new life, a better one. Bree and I already talked it through. He folded his arms. Pack your things. Mom, I don't need you anymore. I'm rich now. The words didn't feel real. They hit me like cold water. I grabbed the edge of the counter to steady myself. You don't mean that. I whispered. I do. His eyes hardened. This house drags me down. You drag me down. Investors don't want to see I'm still living with my mother. I never asked for anything from you. I said, not one thing. That's the point, he said sharply. You don't ask. You just stay. And I need space now. I'm moving up. Bree appeared behind him, leaning on the doorway with her arms crossed. It's the right decision. Lorraine, she said calmly, we'll help you find a place eventually. But you need to go tonight. Nathan can't grow with you here. She used that word grow as if I were a weed. Nathan bent, zipped open the suitcase, and started shoving in clothes from the laundry basket. My clothes. He didn't even check what he grabbed. Nathan, stop, I said. Reaching for the sleeve of a cardigan, he jerked it away. No, I'm done. You're leaving. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know, he said, already heading for the front door. You'll figure it out. Bree tugged on his arm. Hurry. The locksmith is coming soon. My heart clenched. You're changing the locks. Of course, she said. We can't have you wandering back in whenever you feel like it. My throat tightened as Nathan shoved the suitcase at me again. Take it, he said. Go. I bent slowly, my hands trembling as I gripped the handle. When I stood up, something on the counter caught my eye, a business card. Crisp. New. Shiny. Edward L. Richter Real Estate Investments. Quick closings. All cash. He had planned this. Before the phone call. Before the probate meeting. Before he even pretended to ask how I felt. The doorbell rang. Bree smiled. That'll be the locksmith. Nathan opened the door and stepped outside without looking back at me. I walked out onto the porch with my suitcase bumping down each wooden step, each thud echoing in my chest. The locksmith brushed past me politely, the irony slicing deep. On the sidewalk, headlights flashed. Ruby's old sedan rolled to a stop beside me. She pushed the door open. Worry etched across her face. Get in. Lorraine, she said softly, you're staying with me tonight. I climbed in, the door closing around me like a final line drawn in the sand. As Ruby drove us away, my phone buzzed with a voicemail from Attorney Rhodes. Mrs. Carter, her voice said, firm and urgent. It is absolutely necessary that you attend the probate meeting. You are directly involved. You'll understand everything soon. I held the phone tightly, staring back at the house that no longer belonged to me. Why would a lawyer need me there if the inheritance was never meant for me? I sat at Ruby's kitchen table with my hands wrapped around a mug of tea I couldn't drink. Her home was warm, lived in, filled with photos of grandkids and old choir friends. But all I could see in my mind was the empty chair at my own table, the one Nathan used to sit in every Sunday. Ruby slid into the seat across from me. You don't have to talk yet, she said. Just breathe. I keep thinking I did something wrong. I whispered. Maybe I raised him too softly. Maybe I made him think he could treat me like this and I'd still be there. Ruby shook her head sharply. Don't you dare blame yourself. That boy made his own choices. Before I could respond, her granddaughter Maya came through the doorway, her backpack still on. She was 17, smart-mouthed, but loyal to the bone. Grandma told me what happened, she said, dropping her bag on the floor. Where is Nathan? Because I'll go cuss him out right now. Maya, I murmured, even as a small, tired smile tugged at my mouth. Leave it alone. No, he's foul, she said, pacing. Who kicks their own mother out? He should be ashamed. Ruby snapped her fingers. Sit down, baby. Maya sat, but her eyes stayed fiery. Ms. Lorraine, you can stay here as long as you want. I'll give you my room. You keep your room, I said softly. I need a night to think. The room fell quiet again, and the silence pressed on me like a weight. I stared down into my tea, watching the small ripples tremble in the cup. Everything felt unreal, like I'd been peeled out of my own life. Ruby reached over and squeezed my hand. You're not alone. I squeezed back, grateful, but the ache in my chest didn't ease. I don't understand how he changed so fast. I said, he wasn't always like this. No one turns greedy overnight, Ruby replied. It just finally came out. Maya muttered. A snake sheds its skin. Doesn't mean it wasn't a snake before. I didn't have the strength to scold her. That night, after they'd both gone to bed, I sat alone in the small guest room Ruby had set up for me. My suitcase sat open on the chair. My folded clothes looked like they belonged to someone else, someone who still had a home, a kitchen, a son who hugged her on holidays. My phone buzzed. A new voicemail. The number was unfamiliar, but something about it made my stomach tighten. I pressed play. "Lorraine," Harold's voice said. I froze. His voice was weak, older than I remembered, but unmistakably his. "If you're hearing this, something has happened. I tried calling a few times. Didn't reach you." I covered my mouth with my hand. "Listen to me," he continued. "Remember your worth. That's all I can say right now. You'll understand soon." The message ended. I sat completely still, the phone shaking in my palm. He recorded that before he died. He knew something. I replayed the words. "Remember your worth" again and again, each repetition sinking deeper until I finally set the phone down and lay back on the bed. Sleep didn't come easy, but the thought stayed with me. Harold knew something I didn't. Attorney Karen Rhodes greeted me with a firm handshake, her eyes sharp behind a pair of narrow glasses. Her office didn't look like the ones you see on television, no polished mahogany, no framed diplomas shouting for attention, just stacks of files, a tired lamp, and the faint smell of coffee that had sat too long on a warmer. "Mrs. Carter," she said, motioning for me to sit. "I'm glad you came." I settled into the chair, clutching my purse a little tighter than I meant to. "Your voicemail said it was important." "It is." Karen folded her hands. "Before we begin, I want you to know we're handling your brother's estate with care. Harold was a private man, but he was very clear about certain instructions." She spoke carefully. Each word weighed before she released it. I watched her noticing the same thing I'd noticed in her voicemail, a soft concern whenever she looked at me. It made my stomach knot. "What exactly did Harold leave behind?" I asked. "That will be revealed at the probate meeting," she said. "All beneficiaries must be present." "All beneficiaries," I repeated. She nodded. "Yes. There are clauses that cannot be explained until all parties are present." I felt a chill move up my arms. "Nathan is expecting, well, a lot." "I am aware," Karen said, not a smile, something closer to a sigh. "Your son has called my office 4 times in 2 days." I pressed my lips together. "He's not handling this well." "That's partly why you're here." She slid a folder across the table. "I cannot disclose the full will, but I can confirm that your name appears in it." My breath caught. Mine as a secondary beneficiary. I stared at the folder as if it might bite. Harold never told me anything like that. "He made the change 2 years ago," Karen said, "and he was very clear-headed. His doctor's evaluation at the time confirms this." I felt the chair under me soften, like I might sink right through it. "I don't understand. Why would he put my name there at all? He barely spoke to Nathan." "Which may be why," Karen said slowly. There was a gentle, deliberate way she observed me, like she was waiting for something to connect in my mind. But nothing did. Not yet. All I knew was the ache of the past few days and Nathan's voice yelling for me to leave. I placed a hand against my chest. "Harold and I argued years ago. We drifted. Why would he think of me at the end?" Karen leaned back. "People see more than you think." "Mrs. Carter?" "Especially when they're watching from a distance." Before I could ask what she meant, my phone buzzed in my purse. "Ruby." Twice. I silenced it, my heart thumping harder. "I don't want any trouble," I said quietly. "I don't want a dime that isn't rightfully mine." "This isn't about trouble," Karen replied. "This is about your brother's wishes, and those wishes include you." When I stepped out into the hallway, the cool air hit me like a slap. I hadn't realized how tightly I'd been holding my breath. Ruby was waiting in the car, tapping the steering wheel anxiously. "Well," she asked the moment I opened the door. He put my name in the will, I said, stunned. Ruby nodded once, not surprised. That man was sharp till the very end. If he put your name there, he had a reason. A reason for what Ruby started the engine, for a condition, something he wanted to make sure of. She glanced at me, and conditions change everything. Nathan didn't waste a single day after that first call from Attorney Rhodes. By the next morning, he and Bree were hauling suitcases into a glossy, high-rise rental near downtown, the kind of place with cold marble floors and neighbors who pretended not to see you in the hallway. I found out only because Maya shoved her phone in my hands at Ruby's kitchen table. Ms. Lorraine, look, there they were. Nathan and Bree smiling in front of floor-to-ceiling windows, a city skyline glowing behind them. The caption read, "New chapter, new life, big blessings on the way." My chest tightened as I scrolled. Photo after photo. Him holding a fake champagne bottle. Bree posing on the balcony like she owned it. A video of them clinking glasses. In one clip, Nathan said, "Gotta elevate your surroundings if you want to elevate your future." He sounded proud. He sounded like a stranger. Ruby clicked her tongue. Lord have mercy. They're spending money they don't even have. They're just excited, I murmured, though the words tasted bitter. They think good things are coming. Maya shook her head. They're acting like lottery winners before buying the ticket. Later that evening, I sat on the edge of the guest bed and tried calling Nathan. It rang twice before going to voicemail. I tried again, straight to voicemail that time. I sent a text, Nathan. We need to talk. Please call me. Nothing. When Ruby knocked on the door, I wiped my face quickly. You all right if I sit for a minute? She asked. I nodded. She eased onto the bed beside me, her arm warm against mine. He's lost in something right now, she said softly. Greed. Dreams. Bree's voice in his ear. Maybe all of it. He didn't even invite me to see the new place. I whispered. He blocked me out before he even knew what Harold left. Ruby looked at me. Not unkindly. You saw what he posted. He thinks that inheritance is his golden ticket. I swallowed hard. He's not even grieving Harold. Some folks don't grieve people, she said. They grieve opportunities. I didn't want that to be true about my son, but every day made it harder to deny. The next night, I checked their social media again. Bree had posted something new, white text on a black screen. Some people are meant to be left behind. The comments were filled with little fire emojis, and so true. Girl, my stomach dropped. Left behind? I knew exactly who she meant. Ruby came to stand behind me. That woman has claws, she muttered, and your boy is letting her dig right into him. I set the phone down, my fingers trembling. I had always believed Nathan would come back to himself if I gave him grace, if I gave him time. But the distance kept growing, and every post, every picture, every ignored call carved it deeper. My phone buzzed again that night, another voicemail from Attorney Rhodes confirming the probate date, reminding me I was required to attend. Harold's voice echoed in my mind. Remember your worth. I sat up slowly, my hand pressed against my chest. Whatever Harold left behind, whatever clause he placed in that will, he had known something about my future long before I did. The conference room inside the probate office felt too bright, too still. The long table was polished, reflecting every nervous movement like a mirror. Nathan sat across from me, his leg bouncing, his phone face down as if he were trying to prove he could focus. Bree sat beside him. Her fingers laced around his arm like she feared he might float away without her. Judge Martin Delgado entered with Attorney Rhodes, both carrying thick folders. Thank you all for coming, the judge said. We will begin the reading of the will of Harold Whitcomb. Nathan straightened, lifting his chin, already wearing the expression of a man prepared to receive something valuable. I kept my hands folded in my lap. Attorney Rhodes opened the first folder. Mr. Whitcomb revisited his will 2 years ago. All changes were documented with medical and legal witnesses. Nathan smirked slightly. Great. So let's get started. Judge Delgado's tone remained steady. We will read the document in full. He began with small details: Harold's possessions, accounts, properties, 2 residences, a retirement fund, several long-held investments. Then he reached the inheritance section. Nathan leaned forward. I bequeath my primary residence, all financial accounts, stocks, and any associated assets to my nephew, Nathan Carter. Nathan's grin broke across his face. Bree squeezed his arm, whispering, I told you. Judge Delgado continued sharply, cutting the celebration short. Provided that, for a period of 1 year following my death, Nathan Carter must allow my sister, Lorraine Carter, full residence in the home, ensure her care, and treat her with the same respect she has shown him throughout her life. Nathan blinked. What does that mean? Attorney Rhodes looked directly at him. It means exactly what it says. Judge Delgado read on. Should Nathan Carter fail in this obligation, or should he refuse residence or care to my sister at any time during that year, the entire estate shall immediately transfer to Lorraine Carter. The room went dead quiet. Nathan let out a disbelieving laugh. This has to be a joke. A whole year? Why would he write that? Attorney Rhodes set down the folder. Her voice was calm but heavy. Because Mr. Whitcomb witnessed something during his last visit to Chicago. I shifted in my seat. Witnessed what Karen turned to me softly. Mrs. Carter, 2 years ago. Harold stopped by your home unannounced. You were outside, trying to lift a heavy box from the car. He told me you were struggling. Nathan stiffened. Judge Delgado continued, reading from a separate note attached to the will. I watched my nephew sit inside playing games on his phone while my sister strained alone. I knocked on the door. He did not answer. I witnessed disrespect I could not ignore. My breath caught. Nathan's face drained of color. He didn't tell me he came by. Karen didn't flinch. He didn't need to. He saw enough. Judge Delgado finished the clause. If my nephew cannot care for the woman who raised him, he does not deserve a single thing I leave behind. Bree's mouth fell open. This can't be legal. It is airtight. Karen replied. Your uncle was meticulous. Nathan slammed a hand against the table. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't hurt her. Attorney Rhodes lowered her voice. The condition includes disrespect, neglect, and eviction. The word eviction hung in the air like smoke. Nathan turned slowly toward me, his eyes widening as realization hit. Mom, he said, breathless. You left voluntarily, right? You weren't kicked out. Tell them. I swallowed, but the truth was already written across his face. Bree whispered urgently, Lorraine, tell them you left by choice. I lifted my chin. Nathan told me to pack my things and get out. He changed the locks. Judge Delgado closed the folder with finality. Then the condition has already been violated. Nathan's chair scraped loudly as he stood. No, I can fix this. I can, Mom. Don't do this. Say something. But the judge was already speaking. Per the terms of the will, the estate transfers to Lorraine Carter immediately. Nathan stared between the judge, Karen, and me, realization sinking deeper with every second. He wasn't inheriting anything. Not a house, not a penny, not a single piece of what he thought was guaranteed. And the look on his face told me he understood something else too, something that struck him harder than losing the money. Harold had protected me more in death than Nathan had ever protected me in life. Judge Delgado asked for all supporting documents before making the final declaration. Attorney Rhodes opened a second folder thicker than the first, and the moment she did, I saw Nathan's shoulders tense. We compiled the timeline of events, she said, including communication from all parties. She placed several printed pages on the table. These are text messages from Nathan Carter to his mother the night of her removal from the residence. Nathan lunged forward. Those were private. You can't. They were submitted as evidence by Mrs. Ellis. Karen said calmly. She witnessed the eviction. Ruby had done that for me. I hadn't known. Judge Delgado read aloud. You need to go tonight. Locks are getting changed. I can't carry you anymore. I'm moving up. Bree buried her face in her hands. Nathan, why would you put that in writing? Nathan ignored her. Mom, tell them I didn't mean it. Tell them you weren't forced out. Before I could speak, Karen pulled out a small recorder. We also have a voicemail from the night in question. My heart dropped. Bree shook her head fiercely. No, do not play that. It is legally admissible, Karen said, pressing play. Nathan's voice filled the room loud, impatient, unmistakable. Pack your things. Mom, you're out, and don't call me again unless it's important. He cursed on the recording. Twice. I closed my eyes. The next evidence came from Harold's neighbor in Indianapolis. She provided a statement. Karen explained. She confirms that Harold visited Chicago 2 years ago, witnessed Mrs. Carter struggling with heavy boxes while Nathan ignored her. And he later confided that he feared Nathan had changed. Nathan slammed both palms onto the table. This is ridiculous. You're taking the words of strangers over your own family. You dismissed your mother's account, the judge replied, but your uncle left a written note documenting what he saw, and we have corroboration. Then came the final document, the official date of my eviction. Mrs. Carter was removed from the home on March 2nd. Karen said, Mr. Whitcomb passed on February 23rd. That is a violation within 9 days. 9 days. That number hit Nathan like a punch. Judge Delgado closed the file. Nathan Carter, you have violated the mandatory care and respect clause. Per the will. The estate is no longer yours. It transfers in its entirety to Lorraine Carter. Bree stood up so fast her chair toppled. You promised me, she screamed at Nathan. You swore we were set. I already told people, Nathan. What am I supposed to tell them now? He grabbed her wrist. Bree, stop. We can fix this. Mom, please, do not drag me into this. She snapped, yanking her arm back. I told you to be careful. I told you to be smart. But you couldn't even pretend to be decent for 1 year, Bree. You ruined everything, she said through clenched teeth. I am not going down with you. Her voice cut like glass. She pushed past him and stormed out of the room. Nathan's anger evaporated, replaced by pure panic. He turned toward me, his face crumpling. Mom, please. Please say something. Tell them we can redo it. Tell them you'll give it to me anyway. I felt a strange calm wash over me, a steadiness I hadn't felt in years. Nathan, I said softly. He froze. And then it happened. He sank to his knees, right there on the polished floor in front of the judge, the lawyer, in front of me. Mom, he whispered, voice breaking. I need you. You're all I have. Please, don't let them do this. I looked down at him, the son I raised alone, the son I loved with everything in me, the son who had thrown me out without hesitation. My hands trembled. But not from fear this time, from choice. And I realized this moment wasn't about him falling. It was about whether I would let him pull me down with him. Nathan's knees hit the tile with a sound that seemed to echo far louder than it should have. He grabbed my wrist so tightly I felt his fingers shaking. Mom, please listen to me, he said, his breath coming fast. I didn't mean any of it. I was stupid. I was stressed. I didn't think straight. You know how I get when things feel big. I tried to pull my hands free, but he clung harder. Nathan, I said quietly. Let go. He didn't. If anything, He held on tighter. Just tell the judge the truth. Tell them you're willing to reverse this. If you tell them, they'll let me fix it. They'll let me make it right. Judge Delgado stood, gathering his documents. Mrs. Carter is under no obligation to assist you in altering the will, he said firmly. But Nathan didn't hear him. He was locked on me, eyes frantic. Mom, look at me. I lost everything. Bree and I already signed the lease. We bought furniture. I told people. Mom. I told everyone. You should have thought of that before, Karen said from beside him. He glared up at her. Stay out of this. Then he looked back at me, his voice cracking. I'm your son. I know, I whispered. So help me. I pulled one hand free, and for a moment he reached for air, like he couldn't accept losing even that small grip. The door burst open, and Bree rushed in, heels clicking loudly. Nathan, what did they say? Tell me they fixed it. Then she saw him on the floor, saw me standing above him. Her expression curdled. Oh my God, get up, you look pathetic. I'm trying, he snapped. You don't understand what's happening. I understand perfectly, she said, her voice sharp. You promised me we would be set. You said your uncle left you everything. Now you're saying we get nothing. Nathan's voice trembled. Bree, please, just give me a second. She turned to me, plastering on a thin, sweet smile. Lorraine, you're not really going to take everything from your own son, are you? That would destroy him. And us. The way she added, and us made my stomach turn. I didn't take anything. I said, your actions did. Bree laughed once. Humorless. Oh, please. You could fix this in 2 seconds. Just tell them you don't want the estate. That estate belonged to my brother. I said, not me. Not you. And Harold made his decision. Nathan took my hand again. Mom, please, do not do this to me. That's enough, Judge Delgado said, moving toward the door. This meeting is concluded. Nathan's voice rose. No. Please, Mom. Stand up for me. Say something I have said what I need to say. I replied, and then it hit me like a truth Harold had planted months ago, waiting to bloom at the right moment. Nathan wasn't apologizing from love. He was apologizing from fear. Fear of losing the money. Fear of losing the life he thought he deserved. Fear of facing consequences for the first time in his life. I pulled my other hand free and stepped back. Nathan, I said softly, I won't save you from the consequences you created. His mouth opened, then closed. He looked like a child whose toy had been taken, except this time, the toy was a fortune he never earned. Bree stared at him as if seeing him clearly for the first time. You idiot, she hissed. You absolute idiot. He reached for her. Bree, wait, where are you going? Home, she said. My home, not yours. She jabbed a finger toward the hallway. Figure out your mess alone. She stormed out, heels stabbing the floor with every step. Nathan stumbled after her, calling her name, but she kept walking straight through the lobby doors, down the steps, and into a waiting rideshare. She didn't look back once. He stood on the curb as the car drove off, his hands hanging uselessly at his sides. I walked past him quietly. He didn't try to stop me. For the first time since this nightmare began, the air felt still around me, still and strangely clear. When Ruby pulled up to the sidewalk and opened her passenger door, I climbed in without a word. Behind me, Nathan remained frozen in the streetlight glow, staring down the empty road like a man trying to understand how his whole world slipped through his fingers. And I did not turn around. The next week felt like walking through someone else's life. My name was suddenly on documents, accounts, and lists that didn't feel like they belonged to me. Attorney Rhodes scheduled several meetings with financial planners, and every time I sat across from one of them, I felt like a schoolgirl pretending to be an adult. Mrs. Carter, with the property values, the investment accounts, and the retirement funds. You're looking at a little over $2 million in total assets, the planner said. Flipping through pages, I barely understood. $2 million! I nodded as if the number hadn't made my pulse jump. Ruby sat beside me, her hand resting calmly over mine. She needs things explained simply. She told him, "Don't bury her in numbers." The planner smiled politely. "Of course. We'll take it step by step." Step by step still felt like a mountain. When we left the office, I walked slowly down the hallway, gripping my purse as if someone might take it all away. Ruby stepped closer. "You all right?" "I don't know if this is real," I said quietly. "I spent years stretching every dollar. Now they're telling me I have more money than I've ever seen." Ruby looped her arm through mine. "You're allowed to have something good happen." "I don't know what to do with it," I murmured. "You'll figure that out." "You always do," but the weight of it pressed hard freedom with no instructions. When we returned to Attorney Rhodes's office to finalize signatures, she cleared her throat. "Mrs. Carter, before you go, there's one more item Harold left. A personal letter." My breath caught. "For me?" "Yes." Karen handed me a sealed envelope, my name written in Harold's shaky handwriting. "He asked that it be given to you after the transfer of the estate." Ruby touched my shoulder gently. "Open it, baby." My fingers trembled as I broke the seal and unfolded the paper. "Lorraine, if you're reading this, then I've already done what I should have done long ago. I should have protected you when I saw how Nathan spoke to you. I should have stepped in years before I ever rewrote my will. You deserved better. I'm sorry for waiting so long. You spent your whole life caring for others. Please let this be the one time someone takes care of you. Live freely. Live without fear. You are worth more than you know. Harold." I held the letter against my chest, feeling something break open inside me. Not pain this time, but release. Ruby wiped her eyes. "He loved you. You know." In his own stubborn way, I nodded, swallowing hard. I didn't know he saw so much. He saw enough. Ruby said, "Enough to make sure you'd never struggle again." Karen closed her folder softly. "Mrs. Carter, this is your life now. You decide what happens next." My hands still shook as I folded the letter, but something inside me had shifted. Not confidence. Not yet, but a small, steady spark. A future had been placed in my hands. And for the first time in a long while, it was mine to choose. I should have expected it. But the letter arrived like a slap anyway. A thick envelope stamped Cook County Probate Court with my name printed across the front. Ruby was chopping onions when I opened it, and she stopped mid-slice the moment she saw my face, pale. "What is it?" she asked. I handed her the papers. She scanned the first page, eyebrows climbing. "He's accusing you of manipulation, of coercing Harold into changing the will." My stomach twisted. "He filed an official petition. He wants the court to overturn the will." Ruby slammed the papers on the counter. "That boy is digging his own grave." Attorney Rhodes called me within the hour. "Lorraine, don't panic," she said calmly. "We will respond. Judge Delgado is ordering a review. But the evidence is on your side, Bajatsi. I don't want to be dragged through this." I whispered. "He filed a malicious claim," Karen said, "and that never ends well for the filer." The review took place in a smaller courtroom the following week. Nathan arrived with a lawyer he clearly couldn't afford. Tie crooked, eyes restless. When I entered, he wouldn't look at me, but I could feel his rage simmering in the air. Judge Delgado adjusted his glasses. "Mr. Carter claims undue influence was exerted upon the decedent by Mrs. Carter. The court will hear evidence." Nathan's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, we believe the will change was suspicious. Mr. Whitcomb had limited contact with the petitioner, and Mrs. Carter benefited unduly. Attorney Rhodes rose smoothly. Your Honor, Harold Whitcomb documented his reasoning clearly. In fact, there is a sealed file in the estate box we have not yet opened at his direct instruction. A murmur ran through the room. Judge Delgado frowned. A sealed file. Yes. Karen said, my client was not aware of it. But its existence was noted in the master index. Nathan's lawyer scoffed. This is theatrics. But Nathan wasn't scoffing. He was sweating. The clerk retrieved a thin, labeled envelope. The judge opened it carefully. Inside was a flash drive. Delgado inserted it into the courtroom monitor. A video popped up, dated 14 months before Harold's death. My brother appeared on the screen. Sitting at a wooden desk, his face was tired, thinner than I remembered. But his eyes were sharp. If you are watching this, Harold said, someone is contesting what I wrote, so I want the truth documented in my own voice. Nathan shifted in his seat. Harold continued. I changed my will after visiting my sister. I watched her carry groceries alone up her steps while Nathan sat inside playing games on his phone. I knocked. He ignored me. Later, I heard him snap at her. I heard him call her a burden. Nathan's jaw dropped. This is taken out of context. Silence. The judge ordered. Harold's voice deepened. Lorraine never asked for anything from him, not a cent. She has given that boy her entire life, so if he cannot show her respect, I will not give him mine. Nathan's lawyer swallowed hard. If Nathan is watching this, Harold said, I hope he learns something before it's too late. The screen went black. Nobody moved. Even the air felt frozen. Judge Delgado finally spoke. Mr. Carter, this video directly contradicts your petition. Nathan's voice cracked. I didn't know he recorded that. You filed a false claim, the judge said. This court does not tolerate manipulation of the legal process. Nathan's lawyer tried to salvage it. Your Honor, my client was emotional. Your client lied, Karen interrupted, and attempted to defame my client. Nathan looked at me, then wide-eyed, desperate, trembling. Mom, he whispered. Please, I'm sorry. But his apology had come too late and too broken. The truth had destroyed the last lie he had left. When the video ended, the courtroom felt charged with a kind of stillness I'd never experienced, like every breath was waiting for the judge's next word. Nathan sat frozen, his hands limp in his lap, his face pale. His lawyer had given up pretending to control the situation. The folder on his desk was closed. Untouched. Judge Delgado cleared his throat. I have seen more than enough. Nathan jerked upright. Your Honor, please, Delgado held up a hand. Mr. Carter, your petition is dismissed in its entirety. The words struck like a gavel long before he reached for the real one. You knowingly filed a false and malicious claim. The judge continued, voice sharp but calm. You attempted to weaponize the court to regain what you lost through your own misconduct. Nathan's mouth opened and closed. I was desperate. Desperation, Delgado said evenly, is not a legal defense. Attorney Rhodes sat beside me, steady but silent, as the judge continued reading from the order. Furthermore, due to the malicious intent of this filing, the court is issuing a formal admonishment and a civil penalty of $4,000. Ruby let out a quiet, satisfied hum behind me. Nathan shook his head. $4,000? I don't have that kind of money. Delgado looked almost tired. You should have considered that before lying under oath. Nathan's lawyer whispered something to him, some frantic half-plan, but Nathan didn't respond. He just stared down at his knees like he wished the floor would swallow him. Delgado wasn't finished. In addition, he said, your conduct demonstrates a willingness to misrepresent facts for financial gain. As such, you are hereby restricted from participating in any future probate filings involving the Whitcomb or Carter families. Nathan finally looked up. What does that mean? It means, the judge said gently but firmly, you are barred from receiving future inheritance from any family member whose estate falls under this jurisdiction. Nathan's voice cracked. Forever, forever. Bree, who had slipped quietly into the back of the courtroom, made a soft, choking sound. She didn't move any closer to him. The judge stood. This hearing is concluded. The gavel struck once, sharp and final. Nathan didn't stand right away. He pressed the heels of his hands into his eyes, shoulders shaking, though I couldn't tell if it was anger or tears, maybe both. His lawyer gathered what little dignity he could and walked out without waiting for him. I rose slowly. My legs felt steadier than they had in months. Attorney Rhodes touched my arm. It's over. Lorraine, you don't owe him anything now, not legally, not emotionally. Ruby met us at the door, her smile soft but full of pride. You did good, baby. Outside, the air was cool and clear. The courthouse steps were bathed in afternoon sunlight. I felt something loosen in my chest, something that had been clenched tight ever since Nathan told me to pack my things. For the first time in a long while, I breathed without fear, without guilt, without that constant ache of wondering what I could have done differently. Behind me, Nathan finally pushed through the courthouse doors, calling my name, Mom, Mom. Please, I didn't turn around, not out of cruelty, not out of victory, but because justice had already been delivered, quietly and cleanly, without my anger doing the work. And now the only question left in my life was what healing would look like now that revenge had already come and gone. I never imagined I would stand inside my South Shore house one last time, touching the walls I once leaned against when life felt too heavy. The kitchen still smelled faintly of the lavender cleaner I always used, and the living room held the quiet echo of the years I spent raising Nathan alone. But memories weren't enough to make it home anymore. Not after everything that happened inside these walls. The young realtor, a kind man named Terrence, held out the final contract. Mrs. Carter, the buyers are excited. They want to close next Tuesday. Ruby nudged me gently. You ready, baby? I took one slow breath, then another. Yes, I said. It's time. We stepped outside together, and I handed Terrence the keys. My keys, the ones I'd jingled in my hand 1,000 times, the moment he drove away with them. Something in my chest loosened, not pain, not loss. Something like relief. Within a week, I moved into a small condo overlooking Lake Michigan. The building was older, but well kept. The balcony faced the water, and the first morning I woke up there, I stood wrapped in my robe, watching the sun spread across the lake like melted gold. Ruby called that morning. How's the Queen of Lake Michigan? I laughed softly, trying to remember how to be someone who sleeps past 5. You'll learn, she said. Take it slow. This is your life now. I did take it slow. For once, I let myself. I started therapy, nothing heavy, just someone to talk to who didn't know my story already. The therapist, Dr. Hines, was warm and firm in all the right ways. You've lived in survival mode for years, she said. Your body doesn't know how to relax. We'll teach it. I also did something I hadn't done since my 30s, bought myself new clothes. Not a whole wardrobe, just a few pieces that made me feel good, alive. A soft gray sweater, a pair of jeans that actually fit, a blue scarf that reminded me of Harold's fishing trips. You look 10 years younger, Maya announced when she saw the scarf. Then I should buy 10 more, I joked. But the best thing I did was the one I never saw coming, teaching reading classes at the community center. It started by accident. I was dropping off donated books when a coordinator asked if I knew anyone who could help adult learners. I can. I said before I even thought about it. That's how I met Elena. She was 68, soft-spoken, with silver hair pulled into a loose braid. She struggled through the first page of a book, apologizing every few sentences. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I should be better than this." I touched her hand gently. "You're here. That's already better than you think." She smiled, thin, unsure, and for a moment I saw myself in her, a woman trying to rebuild something life had knocked apart. After class, she pulled me aside. "Lorraine, you're patient in a way most people aren't. You should be doing more with that." "Something bigger." I blinked at her. "Bigger." "Yes," she said, squeezing my arm. "Some women lose everything before someone notices. You noticed me. You helped me. Maybe you're meant to help others too." Her words stayed with me all evening, long after I drove home along the shoreline. Later that night, standing on the balcony wrapped in my blue scarf, I looked out at the dark stretch of lake, feeling that spark of something new, something calling. Maybe Elena was right. Maybe my life wasn't just opening one new door. Maybe it was walking towards something I never imagined I could build. The idea started as a whisper, something Elena said offhanded, something Ruby nodded at, something Maya called actually kind of genius. But once it took root, it grew in me faster than I expected. A home for seniors who'd been abandoned. A place where no one would ever hear "pack your things. I don't need you ever again." The first person I told was Ruby. She sat across from me at my condo table, stirring sugar into her tea. "A housing program," she asked, brows raised. "Just a small one," I said. "Something manageable. A place where people like me, people who were pushed aside, can land somewhere soft." Ruby reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Baby, that's not small. That's purpose." Maya poked her head around the corner. "Can I help? I can make flyers or run socials or something." "You can help," I said, "but you still have homework." She grinned and disappeared. Elena was the last person I told. When I explained it to her after one of our reading classes, she pressed both hands over her heart. "Lorraine," she whispered, "you're building the thing you once needed." I swallowed hard. Maybe I am. Within 2 months, we found a small 2-story building on Chicago's South Side, nothing fancy, but solid. Good bones. As Terrence the realtor said, I paid for it outright with part of Harold's estate. Name, Terrence asked as we walked through. I looked out at the sun filtering through dusty windows. Hope House. Ruby clapped. Perfect. The renovations were simple, fresh paint, new locks, updated bathrooms. Maya painted a mural of sunflowers in the entryway. Elena helped select furniture that felt warm, not clinical. I found myself choosing colors and fabrics with a kind of certainty I didn't know I had. During a break one day, Maya plopped down beside me on the stairs. "I like the new you," she said. "What new me? The one who smiles more, the one who stands taller." I chuckled softly. "I'm trying." "You're doing more than trying," she said. "You're building something that matters." When we opened the doors, 3 seniors moved in the first week. Mrs. Holden, whose son lived 3 blocks away but never visited. Mr. Ray, a widower with no family left. And Miss Camilla, who'd been living in her car after her daughter kicked her out. The first night, I cooked dinner for all of them, simple roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans. They sat at the long wooden table, talking softly, getting to know one another. Mrs. Holden reached for my hand. "This feels like a miracle," she said. "Thank you." I smiled. "You're welcome. You deserve a place like this." Later, as I walked through the halls, checking light switches and doors, something warm settled inside me, deeper than relief, steadier than victory. This was peace. Peace I built myself. Elena found me on the balcony that evening. It's beautiful, she said. Everything you've done here. I nodded. It feels right. Purpose usually does, she said, leaning on the railing beside me. But I want you to prepare for something. I glanced at her. For what? She hesitated. When you create something good, the past has a way of knocking to see if it can come back in. I didn't answer, but her words lingered long after she left. Hope House glowed behind me, full of life and voices and healing. But out in the dark, I could feel a familiar shadow preparing to return. I was locking up Hope House for the night when I felt it, that prickle at the back of my neck. The kind you get when someone is watching you. The hallway lights were dimmed. The residents were settling into their rooms, and the sky outside had turned a deep, velvet blue. I stepped onto the front porch and froze. Nathan stood on the sidewalk. He looked nothing like the man who once lifted champagne bottles in a downtown high-rise, bragging about his new life. He was thinner, shoulders slumped, hair uncombed. His eyes were hollow in a way I had never seen before. "Mom," he said, voice rough. "Can we talk?" I gripped the railing, steadying myself. "How did you find me?" He gestured weakly toward the door. "The sign. Hope House. I saw your name on the paperwork months ago. I just didn't have the guts to come sooner." I walked down one step, stopping halfway. "Why now?" He swallowed hard. "Because everything fell apart. Bree left. I couldn't afford the condo. I lost my job. I tried to stay with a friend, but people disappear when you have nothing to offer." I didn't respond. I didn't rush toward him. I didn't reach out. He stepped closer. "Mom, I'm sorry. Truly. I know I ruined everything. I didn't come out here for an apology," I said quietly. "Say what you need to say." Nathan's breath hitched, and he took another step. For a split second, I saw the motion in his knees, the way his body shifted. Preparing to kneel, I lifted a hand. "Don't," I said softly but firmly. "No more kneeling." He froze, chest rising and falling too fast. "We walk our own lives now," I said. "You stand on yours, I stand on mine." His eyes welled. "Mom, please. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve a second chance. But I'm trying. I'm trying so hard. I hope you are," I replied. He took another shaky breath. Can we start over? Not the money, not the house, just us. I miss you." The words hit something tender inside me. But tenderness is not the same as trust. "You didn't come because you missed me," I said. "You came because you lost everything else." Nathan looked down at his shoes. He didn't deny it. "And you want help," I added. He hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, I do." His voice cracked open then, exposing the truth he'd tried to bury beneath desperation. "I don't want to be this person anymore," he whispered. "I don't like who I've become." I stepped down the final stair until we stood a few feet apart, close enough to see the exhaustion on his face, far enough to keep my heart safe. "Nathan," I said gently, "I hope you grow. I hope you heal. I hope you become someone you can respect." He looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. "Does that mean—" "It means," I said, "I'm choosing myself this time. Not out of revenge, though, out of survival." He blinked, stunned. "So you won't help me?" "No," I said. "Not financially. Not with housing. Not with anything connected to what happened." A tear slid down his cheek. He wiped it quickly. Embarrassed. "But I don't hate you," I added. "I just can't go backward. And neither can you." He nodded slowly, as if the words were heavy but true. "Okay," he whispered. "I understand." We stood in silence for a long moment, the kind that feels like a final goodbye even before anyone says it. Nathan stepped back. "Take care of yourself." "Mom, I will," I said. "You do the same." He turned and walked away down the dimly lit street, hands tucked into his jacket pockets, shoulders bent against the wind. I watched him until he disappeared around the corner, not because I worried for him, but because I wanted to see the moment he finally walked his life without dragging mine behind him. When I closed the door of Hope House behind me, the hallway lights glowed softly. Warm and steady, this was where my future lived now, and for the first time, I felt ready to walk into it. Harold used to say that real freedom doesn't arrive with noise. It slips in quietly like a chair being pulled out for someone who finally deserves to sit. That evening, I understood what he meant. I stood in the dining hall of Hope House, my community home for abandoned seniors. The long oak table, donated by a local carpenter who heard our story, was covered with warm dishes. Ruby and Maya helped prepare roasted chicken, buttered carrots, cornbread, peach cobbler. The room buzzed with soft conversation and gentle laughter. "Lorraine, honey, where do you want these rolls?" Ruby called. Lifting a tray, "Put them near Mr. Franklin," I said. "That man can sniff out bread from 2 rooms away." Mr. Franklin chuckled. I heard that. The sound of their laughter wrapped around me like a quilt. This was mine, not given, chosen. As everyone settled in, I sat between Maya and Elena Brooks, the woman who encouraged me to turn one small idea into a full program. "You built something beautiful," Elena murmured, leaning closer. "You know that, right?" I shook my head. "We built it, all of us." She tapped her finger gently against my hand. "Humility is sweet, Lorraine. But give yourself some credit." Maya squeezed my other hand. "Grandma, they adore you here. And I do too." The warmth in the room grew thicker, softer, filling the air more fully than the food ever could. For the first time in years, I felt something deep in my bones settle like a storm, finally spending its last drop of rain. Dinner moved slowly and peacefully. Stories were shared, jokes overlapped, hands touched hands. Ruby raised a glass to Lorraine, who proved that blood might betray you, but love never does. My eyes stung. I lifted my glass in return to all of you, my family. As we clinked glasses, Maya reached for my plate to refill it. "Grandma, try the greens," she said. "Ruby cooked them slow, the way you like." I smiled. "You spoil me." "That's the point," she said. After dessert, while the others cleaned up and refused to let me help, I walked toward the front window, feeling drawn by something I couldn't name. The street outside was quiet. The lampposts glowed softly against the evening air. Then I saw him. Nathan stood across the street, hands shoved into his pockets, shoulders pulled tight against the cold, staring. He didn't move toward the house. He didn't wave. He didn't speak. He just watched. I felt the slightest, faintest tug in my chest. Not love, not longing, a kind of quiet sadness for the boy he used to be and the man he chose to become. Elena joined me at the window. "You okay?" "Lorraine?" "Yes," I said. "I am." Nathan's eyes flickered, like he wanted to step forward, but he didn't. He couldn't. Hope House wasn't built for him, it was built because of him. The last time we spoke, he had walked away down that dark street alone. Tonight was no different. I lifted my hand and gently closed the curtain. Then I turned back to the table where my new family waited, Ruby telling a too loud story, Maya laughing into her hands, Mr. Franklin sneaking another roll. My seat was still empty, still warm, still mine. I walked toward them with a smile I didn't need to force. My life didn't end the day he kicked me out, I said softly, taking my chair. It began, and it was true. If you want more stories like this, don't forget to like the video. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from, and subscribe for more powerful life tales.